What's up everybody, Rob here. So today I'm going to be doing a book review. Specifically, I'm going to be taking a look at Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. And it's a book that I finished last week and I've been thinking about it and I figured I'd share all my thoughts with all of you guys. Why? Because I want to and I can. So without any further ado, because I suck at intros and transitions from intros into the main body of what I'm doing, here we go. So Rage of Dragons is a heroic fantasy. It's not an epic fantasy, at least I consider it to be a heroic fantasy. It's very tightly focused, and it's about a bunch of dudes with swords killing a bunch of other dudes with swords. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So, the story focuses on Tau, who, as a Warhammer 40k fan, I find the name a little disconcerting, but, hey, whatever. Any case, he is part of one of the lower classes of a very stratified society. And he has plans for his life, and just really has an idea in his head where he wants his life to go, and things don't go according to plan, because of course they don't, because if they did go according to plan, we wouldn't have a story. And it would be kind of boring. Like, have you ever had a story where just everything works out perfectly for the protagonist? I mean, that would really just be really boring, and kind of stupid that anybody would bother to write that. So, in any case, people screw him over for various reasons, and he seeks revenge. It's a very straightforward, very simple concept. It's very tightly focused on this. And Tau is the majority of the perspective. Almost the entire. There are a couple chapters where there are other characters and their perspectives, but almost entirely it focuses on Tau and his plans for life, and again his quest for revenge. So, and due to the nature of this particular plot, it is an extremely bloody story. Okay, it is basically redlining almost the entire time. I mean, the opening is a very massive fight scene, and then I'd say anywhere between half and 2/3 of the book are some sort of fight scene. Either there's a training scene, there's a sparring match, there's a duel of some kind, there's major epic full-scale battle scenes, there's skirmishes, it's a vast part of the portion of the book is a fight scene of some kind. And you might think that might get boring after a while, but it doesn't. It does not get boring. Because, after a while, you can't be, redlining it the entire time. You can't be cranking it up to 11 for, the entire book. And after a while, it gets okay, another guy got stabbed, But I never really felt that. It never felt boring. Each fight scene served the plot, certainly. There just seemed to be a reason for it to happen, and it never got dull. At least not in my opinion. I would think it would do that, just the concept of that much fighting going on, but it never seemed to be too much to me. Now, perhaps this is partially helped by the descriptions of the violence, and this is not a book for the squeamish. Bones break, limbs get hacked off, people get disemboweled. I mean, we are talking some horrific deaths here. I mean, this is visceral and bloody and brutal. This is actually it does make sense, because we were talking you get somebody stabbed with a sword, they're not just going oh, and then fall over. They stabbed them with a sword and then he fell over. No, there's going to be blood gushing out. There's going to be people are going to be screaming in agony. You're going to hear bones crunching as you tear apart the ribs and hack off the arm. It's just, and Evan Winter does not spare you any of the details. He goes right for the gory bits, and if you like that sort of thing, like I do, as long as it's not gratuitous, it never comes across as gratuitous, but if you're turned off or put off by that sort of thing, that might be a bit of a problem, but if you're not, it fits perfectly. Let's just put it that way. So if you're interested in a very fast-paced, very visceral, very bloody sword and sandal type of a story, this is perfect for you. And that's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to really say about the plot. I don't want to spoil anything for you. Some people would say that I already spoiled something, like Tau wants revenge. It's okay, that's not really a spoiler. That's the premise. But some people get overly sensitive about these things. I guess that's all I'm really going to talk about the plot, though. But overall, it is a very simple plot. It's very straightforward. You know exactly what's going on with that. Now, as far as the world building and the setting is concerned, it is based on African civilizations. Particularly, I got a lot of Zulu vibes from it, not just from the cover art, but the Zulu had a very militarized society, and the society that Tau is from reflects that. And it's a very stratified society, and they're basically they have to be this way because they're fighting a never-ending war against. They're basically holding on by their fingernails against hordes of savages and barbarians, and yeah, it is very refreshing. I mean, nothing against medieval European fantasy. I mean, that's awesome in and of itself. But after fake version of the rolling hills of England for the 7,826th time, it's like this is pretty cool. Yeah, Africans, Zulu inspired fantasy. Yeah, I'm totally down with it. It was well executed, and yeah, I think it's really good. It's a nice change, and yeah, okay. Now, as far as the magic system, it is I consider it a hard magic system, but it's leaning towards soft, which I know is contradictory, and actually it is contradictory. But what I mean by that is that it's hard in the sense that magic is clear, and it has clearly defined limitations. It can do certain things under certain circumstances. For example, just one example is they can actually... a magic user can take the soul out of a person's body. It doesn't kill them, but basically takes the soul out of their body, sends them to a realm where demons live. Very much like 40K. It's like sending somebody's soul into the warp, where their soul gets attacked by demons. It doesn't kill the person, though. But then their soul eventually then returns back to them. And the person then can basically gets PTSD from this, potentially. You're having your soul ripped apart by demons. It'll screw you up, of course. But while this is used as a combat ability, the magic user will send this wave out, and while people's souls are out of their body, they get basically stunned. They just kind of become inert, and then warriors with swords and stuff come in there, and they start hacking these guys down while their souls are departed from their body. But basically, the point I'm trying to make here, well, first off, that's freaking awesome. Yeah, our magic thing is we tear the soul out of your body so demons can eat it. That's pretty freaking badass right there. But this ability and other abilities are very strictly defined. They have very strict, capabilities, what they can and cannot do. So because of that, it's a hard magic system. But at the same time, though, it's more explained as to not necessarily how it happens, but more of why it happens and its connection to the underworld or this other realm of demons. They're powered through a goddess who is imprisoning evil beings, and it's more of I don't know how else to describe it. It's like how it happens, but not necessarily why it happens. It's not quite like Brandon Sanderson, where it's magic is a science, but at the same time, it is clearly defined. There are clear limitations: who can use the magic, what effects each magical ability will have on a person, and etc., etc., etc. So it's a hard magic system, but it does have some. It's the softer side of hard. Let's put it that way. And there's something I want to bring up about Tau, about his characterization. I forgot to put it before, but I figured I'd say it now. I'm going all over the place because like I have any idea what I'm doing. In any case, Tau, in his quest for revenge, you see him go through an arc. You see him actually change. He is a completely different person from where he started to the end of the story, and you see his transformation. And nothing comes easy to him. He is not a Mary Sue by any stretch of the imagination. He basically, this might be a minor spoiler, it depends on how you define spoilers again, but he becomes like a total badass. Guy just is a demon, and there are demons in this world, but he becomes just people are freaking terrified of this guy. And you can see how he got that. So the character progression for him is very clearly laid out. But also, he had to train. He had to train like crazy. If, like I said, it's mostly fight scenes. A lot of his fight scenes are sparring, and he spars like an absolute lunatic. He then trains and practices on his own, and he just becomes, basically he devotes himself to this revenge. And you can see him, when he basically is beating other people up, when he's doing, incredible feats of martial prowess, doing crazy things with swords, you can see how he got that way. He didn't just come out of nowhere. He had to work for everything that he achieved. He had to, absolutely, he had to work harder than everybody else to get where he came from, to where he ended up. So definitely not a Mary Sue, and the training aspect of it, that good. Discipline, determination, and just his sheer will carried him through to get where he needed to go. So, yeah, nothing was handed to him on a platter. He is not Mary Sue at all. Now, there is a couple things that I didn't quite like. Not saying I didn't like about it, but some things that I can see people finding criticisms with. One of them is the world building. There's not a tremendous amount of world building with this. I mean, there is enough to facilitate the story, but it's not like, say, a Song of Ice and Fire or a Wheel of Time series where there's epic histories and, basically like every ruler of every nation that's ever existed, and what meal somebody had 300 years ago, and what the guy's dog's name is. Like, nobody cares about that stuff in this particular story. This is not a grand sweeping narrative. As a result, the world building is a bit limited at times. It's enough to service the story. Okay, for some reason, right at that point, the video I had been doing was all one take, and for some reason in the editing process, it just stopped right there. The battery was still up and running. I don't know why it stopped, but stop it did. So in any case, I'm just going to be taking over the next day. It's actually a couple days later, and lighting's different and everything else, but I'm just going to continue where I left off because I feel like I was almost done anyway, so whatever. Weird transitions, I suck at them anyway. So any case, point is though, the world building is somewhat limited. That's also really the nature of this story. It's a very tightly focused story. It's not a grand sweeping epic, so keep that in mind. So another limitation would be that of the characters. The other characters, Tao's fellow soldiers and other people that he interacts with, they come across as a little bit two-dimensional. For example, there's one character in his squad, really. He's the brute. That's just what he's the big, strong, brutish guy. That's all he really is. You have another guy who's the strategist, and that's really his characterization. Now, there are hints that there is more to these characters than meets the eye. That is true, but they do come across as pretty 2D, pretty flat at times. Also, they're really just more characters than anything else. I think the reason for this is that, again, it's mostly from Tao's perspective, and he only sees that aspect of these characters, and so we, as an audience, see things only this way. We don't really get the other perspective from it, so it's understandable, but that is a limitation, so that is important to keep in mind. Overall, the vibe I'm getting is more David Gemmell than George R. R. Martin. I like both of them, so that's fine, but yeah, it's definitely that type of a story, so just keep that in mind. I can see there are limitations there, and that would be, if there are problems, those would be the problems. The world building a little bit, and of course the characterization did come across as flat. Those are the worst complaints I have, but they never really took me out of the story. I think they serviced the plot perfectly well. It's a very plot-heavy story, not really a character one anyway, so this wasn't what we're going for. So, the ultimate question is, what grade would I put on this? Now, I don't like putting grades on things because this is a complex personal opinion, and you can have different things with the same grades, and like, how do you compare something like The Wheel of Time to, the Dresden Files? Like, they're completely different things. I love them both, but how do you compare them? And the answer is, well, you can't. So how can you put grades on them? And it's complex and weird. So the question I have to, because I'm a cheap bastard, the question is this worth my time? And more importantly, was this worth my money? Did I regret spending my money on this? The answer is a resounding no. I absolutely did not regret spending my money on this. It is absolutely worth it. I loved every second of it. I think there's a sequel coming out, I think July. I could be mistaken on that, don't quote me, but yes. If there is a sequel coming out, I will definitely be reading it, and I recommend you all do the same. So, I don't put grades on it, but I did love it. It served its purpose very well. I did not regret paying for it in the slightest, and yeah, I just thought it was really definitely worth it. So, Evan Winter, Rage of Dragons, check it out. Absolutely worth your time, and more importantly, worth your money. Absolutely loved it, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So, that's the end. I would put like a graphic up here, like a stamp or something, like, gets the cheap bastard seal of approval, but I don't know how to do that because I'm a boomer. So there you go, but absolutely worth it. Okay, so that is it for this video, just something I figured I'd throw together. Unfortunately, my old computer died. For some reason, I don't know why, so I have new editing software, a new computer, so I'm trying to break that thing in properly, so I don't know how this is going to turn out. This is really more of a test than anything else, just seeing how everything works out. In any case, please hit the like and subscribe button. More videos coming out whenever I get around to it. And have a good day. Or don't have a good day. You're an adult. You can have any kind of day you want. See you later.